Hey you, yeah you, do you remember Gotham? So Gotham is a DC TV show that ended a little over a year ago, and I have always loved it. It's been a great show. It has some great charm, great stories, and though it's not always perfect, there's some stories and some lines and characters that just don't exactly land, but it's still an overall great show, and it has great adaptations of the characters that we all love from the Batman universe. Or I guess the DC universe in general, but I mean, you know what I meant. I think what made Gotham so great, and for sure the best DC TV show, at least in live action, was that it took its time with characters and it cared about character. It wasn't overly focused on action, it was just focused on the characters. The characters are very much center focused, and today we'll be talking about two characters that I really love in this series. Today we'll be talking about two perfect adaptations of these famous, iconic comic book characters. And what characters are those, you ask? Batman and the Joker. Now, I do want to say one thing before we begin, and that's this will be my last Gotham video. I'm not doing any more because I feel like there's not much more to talk about other than the perfect adaptations of Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Joker. Now, my favorite Batman is still Christian Bale, and that hasn't changed, but in terms of comic book accuracy, I would honestly say that Mizzou's is probably the most accurate. He's, to this day, the only Bruce Wayne live action that captures every single component of Bruce Wayne. He's actually a bit of a detective, he's really smart, they dive really deep into his psyche, he's basically a vigilante by the end of Season 3, and he's serious, he's brooding, he's not a joke. West was fun for the time, and no disrespect to Adam West or anything, but that Batman kinda ruined Batman for like a few years. Keaton was better, but he still didn't really have much of a character and also killed. Kilmer was great, but he lacked the detective side of Batman and had a couple cheesy lines.
It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
Clooney is better off not mentioned. Bale was amazing and for sure the best out of all of them, but the only issue he really had was the detective side of Batman. He wasn't really much of a detective. Other than that though, if they had a detective side, he'd pretty much be perfect. And Affleck is just terrible. Mizzou's is essentially the embodiment of everything that made those Batman great. I still believe to this day he's the only Batman / Bruce Wayne that captures the dark side of Batman, the detective side of Batman, and the fundamental beliefs and psyche of Batman perfectly. And that's not to say that others like Keaton and Bale didn't do a good job. As y'all know, I love Bale, but I won't lie, he wasn't the perfect Batman. Not because of his voice, that's really no big deal, but mainly his detective skills was not really focused upon, while with Mizzou's, it actually is focused upon quite a bit. A lot of times you hear people complain about how we don't get to see a live-action Batman's intelligence on the big screen very much, but here in Gotham, we actually do get to see Bruce Wayne's intelligence. Along with that, in the majority of the live-action Batman films, we don't really get that big of a deep dive into Bruce's psyche, with the exceptions of Batman Mask the Phantasm, Batman Begins, and The Dark Knight Rises. But here, we actually do get a deep dive into Bruce's psyche. Gotham understands that we need to understand why Bruce Wayne makes the decisions that he does. Why, whenever he acts that character, the audience needs to understand why. Unlike, say, Batman v Superman, when Bruce here kills, we understand. And with that, I bring you all to Season 4, Episodes 4 and 5. Now, for anyone who hasn't seen the show, I am going to get into some spoilers here. Skip to this time code if you don't want to get spoiled. And with that, I'm assuming everyone who's here now has either seen it or just doesn't care. So long story short, there's this kid named Alex that Bruce bonds with after Ra's al Ghul kills his grandfather. The reason Ra's killed his grandfather was because he was holding a knife that Ra's wants. Alex and Bruce bond over the course of the episode. Ra's finds them at the end of the episode and tells Bruce to either give him the knife or he'll kill Alex.
I don't understand. Alex's grandfather was afraid of this knife. I can't give it to him. No. You don't know who he is.
Well done, Bruce.
So after that little event, Ra's is arrested, but he's being released from Blackgate. After hearing about this, Bruce has it set in his mind he's going to go kill Ra's. But as it turns out, Ra's actually wants Bruce to kill him. Bruce says no, but then Ra's starts taunting him and telling him how he's gonna kill his future family, and, well...
If you don't kill me, you live your life become a husband, a father. Then I will return, and I will kill everyone you love. Just as you watched me slice your friend's throat, I will slaughter your wife and children. There will be nothing you can do about it.
So he kills Raish. Then in the following episodes, Bruce goes through an arc basically talking about how bad he feels about killing Raish. You see, that's interesting because they made a story around him killing. BVS didn't. There's one thing every Gotham video talks about, at least at some point, and that's Joker. Cameron Monaghan gave a truly spectacular performance, and that spectacular performance basically kept the show alive for 5 years. I'll mainly be focusing on his brother Jeremiah in this video, but Jerome definitely needs some praise because after all, he's the Joker. He was the first Joker of this series. However, Jeremiah is the final Joker, so I'll mainly be focusing on him. Jerome is essentially a combination of everything that made the previous live-action Joker so great. The only problem I have with Jerome is his backstory is kind of completely unraveled in Season 4 to make Jeremiah better. Don't get me wrong, I prefer Jerome, but they unraveled his entire story in Season 4 about how his mother was abusive because of Jeremiah. If you're gonna do a Joker origin, in my personal opinion, you need to tell not a lot of information, but maybe leave implications as to what maybe happened. And in the first 3 seasons, they really just had throwaway lines. In Season 4, they full-on just tell you the whole story, and it's kind of annoying because Jerome was so perfect. His origin problems aside, he's still fantastic. He's evil, and yet he's still making us laugh. That's something I always liked about the Joker. He's goofy, but still evil, still a murderer.
Foul! He pushed me, you see that?
Commissioner Reynolds! And this lady, whoever she is.
No! You're so boring, Bruce. No!
Monaghan captures this mentality of the Joker perfectly. He reminds me a lot of Mark Hamill, which is always a good thing. He also bounces really well off of Bruce. Monaghan, Mizzou's, and the people that wrote the episodes with these two understand that what makes them enemies is their ideals, and also that Jerome's a murderer. A good example would be like Season 3, Episode 14. In that episode, it's very much focused on the fundamental beliefs of Jerome and Bruce Wayne, Joker and Batman. Jerome's cult obviously has Jerome's beliefs, and Bruce arguing that there's still good people in Gotham, and basically it's a battle of fundamentals. The Joker wants to spread chaos, and that's perfectly represented with the character of Jerome Valeska. Now, I still personally prefer Jerome, but Jeremiah is improved in a few ways. For one thing, he's actually obsessed with Bruce, which we'll get into more later. But specifically, his origin, we know certain events that happened in his childhood, but we don't know why they happened. We know Jeremiah lied to his family, making them think Jerome was trying to kill him, but we don't know why he did that. Instead, the show gives multiple implications as to why he may have done that. At one point, they imply he actually thought Jerome was trying to kill him.
You're insane. And I tried telling Mom, but she didn't want to listen to me. The truth is, you were born bad, so that's why you made her think that I tried to kill you.
We both know you wanted to.
They also imply he was just crazy all along, and the chemical gas that Jerome gave him didn't even affect him.
Like everything Jerome set his mind to, his insanity gas failed. Other than some mild cosmetic effects.
What if he's nuttier than the other one?
I'm nothing like Jerome.
They also imply he's just delusional.
Nice. Good for him. I like it. No, I won't. Yes, you will. Come on. Yes, come on.
Burn it down, brother. Burn it all down.
And there's many, many more. This is a perfect way to do a Joker origin. Maybe give us some events that happened, but no context or implications. That's perfect, and that's exactly what they did with Jeremiah. It's pure genius. This way, we still have mystery to him while saying, why he became the way he was to an extent. We still know things about his past, but we're still wondering what the motivation was for the things he did. There's still mystery behind it. Also, real quickly, his look is just perfect. But of course, the big improvement is his obsession with Bruce. Unlike Jerome, Jeremiah, like actual Joker, has an obsession with Bruce. It's such a fascinating relationship, and this show just fleshes it out perfectly. The dynamic between these two characters, or in this case, I guess three, because Jerome and Jeremiah have a great dynamic with Bruce, but the dynamic he has with both of them is absolutely fantastic. Both are very Joker-like. We're specifically talking about Jeremiah and Bruce, though. Jeremiah very much has an obsession with Bruce and is trying to show him something, trying to show him the darkness within himself. Kinda like what Joker tries to do all the time to Batman. Bruce, of course, sees through Jeremiah's insanity and doesn't fall for it. Jeremiah, or can I just call him Joker now? Yeah, I don't know, I'll just keep calling him Jeremiah. Jeremiah very much knows how to push Bruce's buttons. He knows how to get to Bruce.
What did the doctor say? The little bitch ever walk again?
Tell me his name!
In a weird sadistic way, Jeremiah wants to be his best friend.
I offered for you to be my best friend!
Well, if you think about it, it's not really a friend Jeremiah wants. It's a brother.
Brother I never had. One Jerome never could be.
So if I can't have you as a brother,
Then we'll just have to be bonded by hatred.
He wants a brother that he didn't have with Jerome. And he thinks Bruce can fill that gap. I know some people interpret it like he loves Bruce, like, you know, as an actual love. But I interpret it differently. The way I interpret it, he loves him like a brother. He's not a, a pedophile. He loves him like a brother. That's why he always says he wants to be a brother bonded by love.
Do you know how it feels to have the only thing you love, ripped away from you?
Lines like that understandably make people think he legitimately loves Bruce, but again, I interpret it as he loves him like a brother, and he's the only brother he's ever felt that connection with. He's kind of looking for someone that Jerome wasn't. Someone to fill that void now that Jerome is dead, but in a different way, and he thinks Bruce is the one to do that. It's one of the many things that makes the dynamic between the two so fascinating and interesting. It's honestly very sad that they had so little time together. I mean, they only had the end of Season 4 and a couple moments in Season 5. They had one episode in Season 5 and kinda had time in the finale, but they didn't even exchange a line of dialogue. Bruce just threw a batarang at his head. Despite that, their dynamic is still fantastic for the time they're on screen, and it's not just theirs. We need to talk about Jerome and Bruce's dynamic. As many have pointed out before me, Jerome and Jeremiah are essentially two sides of the Joker, and one of them is probably your preference. They showcase two Jokers, and my personal preference is Jerome, but it's honestly only really because we had so little Jeremiah. Even though Jerome legitimately wants to kill Bruce, their dynamic is still a lot of fun and actually really good. It's only really explored in Season 3, Episode 14, that one episode we mentioned earlier. Like I said earlier, it's an episode about fundamentals and ideals.
What's the point?
Point is that all these people out here looting, robbing, killing, they're the people who wash your car, who pour your coffee, who take out your trash. And what happened the moment the lights went out? They showed their true faces. They showed how quickly they want to open up your rich boy veins and bathe in your blue blood. That is the point.
That's not true. There are good people in Gotham.
Face it, kid. Gotham has no heroes.
Jerome chooses to see the worst in people. He thinks everybody deep down is insane, kind of like he does in The Killing Joke. But with Bruce, he sees the good in people. He sees the best in people. And that's the main difference between the Joker and Batman. The difference that Gotham absolutely nailed. And that's why these are the perfect adaptations of the Batman and Joker.